Hello again, Struckpop. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Warhammer Chaosbane, and this one is for the Scout Elessa, and it's version 2.0 of the Ambush Trapper build from several months ago. So it's a revisit, and this time I am not using counterattack damage in my items. But I am still using the ambush passive that gives you physical damage based on counterattack damage. So there are some changes, there are some differences. It will still be similar to the original ambush trapper, but I've also recorded footage of me using two different daggers. Instead of just the dashing daggers like last time, I'm using tireless guardians in one of the in half of the footage you would see. I recorded a few maps with dashing daggers, few maps and runs with the tireless guardians. So right now you're seeing dashing daggers, and now we're switching to tireless guardians. And yeah, either version is okay. With tireless guardians you just need to adapt a different playstyle. With tireless guardians you need to every now and then, every few seconds, try and walk or dash towards the little wisp, the little spirit that keeps floating around, so that you can get that buff for 200% extra damage. Whereas with the dashing daggers, it's just as it was before. You need to position yourself in a way where the daggers would be hitting the enemies. So both of them require you to literally or not so literally jump through hoops. You have to mind your positioning with either of the versions. I hope you like them, I hope you enjoy the build. Keep in mind it is not a Chaos 10 build. In fact, I think you shouldn't take it even to Chaos 9. I mean, Chaos 9 is doable. And I've even tried Chaos 10 and I can do Chaos 10, but it's taking forever. The damage is very bad for Chaos 10. But Chaos 8 is fine. If you like the setup and you feel like playing it and still farm some items, the difference between Chaos 8 and Chaos 10 is 600 wood quality, and when you're looking at 10 or 11,000 wood quality, there's no difference. For the god skills, I will first show you both skill trees, and then if you just want to skip ahead, feel free to do so. Now I'm gonna talk about why I'm taking which node, and first of all show you all the little highlights of this. First of all, highlight number 1, ambush mastered. We're taking that so we can get some extra physical damage based on our counter attack damage. So it's like the setup before, but this time I am not stacking any counter attack damage on my blessings. I figured out that putting flat damage on my blessings gives me better results. This skill is still good. It still gives me 28-30% damage, so it's still a decent skill to use as a passive, and it's worth its skill points. But we are not stacking counterattack damage. I can get 100% damage from this skill if I stack some counterattack damage in my armor, but losing the flat damage after testing, I figured out that my DPS gets lower. So we're still using this, we're still collecting some counterattack damage nodes. Like on the way here we're grabbing this one, and then this one, and then there's that one and that one. And then there's this one as well. So we're still grabbing some counterattack on the way everywhere. And we're also going for this this little detour. So there's 3 little sections that we want to grab. And then we are going this way for the crit damage and cooldowns. And I tried to get cooldown from other places, but the best place is to get cooldown, 15% cooldown, by getting this and this. You're getting 15% cooldown, and you're also getting 45 crit damage percent, 15% regular damage, and 8% bonus damage to champions. And to top it off with the last 2 points, we are grabbing another 3% damage and 8% bonus damage to champions. And that's pretty much how it is. And since we're a physical damage build, We're using these Winds of Isha that we get on the way. It's definitely nice, and it's worth using. I mean, if you need points, you can sacrifice this and grab this one and use this one because it gives you health regeneration. Same duration, less damage, but this one gives you health regen, whereas this one has the secondary damage. The tornado creates traps of roots at regular intervals, and those traps benefit from increased trap damage. Over here we don't use this passive and we don't use this active, but as I mentioned, we're only taking this specific investment for the cooldown. So you can try and modify this if you think that you don't need as much cooldown. If you have enough cooldown on the gear, you can remove those points and try and place them elsewhere for crit damage and stuff. But I don't think you're gonna get that much more damage and crit damage. I mean, at best you can remove those 2 points and put them here and get some extra 15% crit damage for the price of cooldown. I think if you go this way for crit damage and damage with the same amount of points, you're not gonna get as much. So that's it for the god skills. Next come the active and passive skills. Right, and here we are with the active and passive skills. For those of you who wanna skip ahead, I will quickly just show you everything and then talk about why I've taken those things. So we've got Crippling Blade, just the basic. This one can be anything. Anything you wanna use from the basic skills, use it. It's a few. If you don't wanna use a basic skill, sure, go ahead. As long as you have enough energy, you're fine. Spinning Blades Superior, I think this one is just a fewer as well. You can put anything else, but I wanted to have a cooldown skill and I'd rather have Spinning Blade instead of a summoning skill. And you see, the options for skills with cooldown are not that many. Okay, Hungry Roots mastered, Living Roots mastered, Barbed Brambles mastered, Winds of Isha Superior, then Hero of the Desert. This requires the Tomb King's DLC. Duelist Chain Reaction, more about that in a moment. This you get and unlock from invasions. Tactical Retreat, the basic one. Ambush Specialist Heroic, which is our heroic from the set. Fall Tracks, the basic one, and Ambush Mastered from the God Skill 3. Now let's keep talking about the things I wanted to talk. So as I mentioned, we need cooldown skills. Why? Well, Duelist Chain Reaction requires you to use skills with cooldown to build up the stacks, and Elessa only has 3 cooldown skills. Spinning Blades, one of them. Call of the Spirits, the second one, and the third one is Hungry Roots. God skills that have cooldown, like this and this and this and that, they do not count as skills with cooldown to trigger Duelist Chain Reaction. So the options, since we are already using Hungry Roots, the options here would be Spinning Blade Superior, Spinning Blades, any version. Ideally it would be physical, because this is a physical kind of build. Although you don't really have to be using physical, but since we're using ambush, it's better to use physical. And the other version would be Call of the Spirits. If we're using Call of the Spirits, we can't use Mastered, because we're gonna need to rework the points. So the basic one would be there, but if you want 5 more points, if you want to grab 5 points to maybe upgrade this or this with 4 of them, you can either downgrade Spinning Blades to the basic one, or you can use Call of the Spirits. The cooldown of Call of the Spirits is lower, but since you're mostly gonna be spamming traps, I think it's fine to use Spinning Blade. It's not that bad. So Hungry Roots Mastered, it's a trap based set with a trap based bow. So the reason I'm using it is obviously that one. Living Roots, yet another trap, and I'm using the physical damage versions, mind you. So I can just as easily try and switch to the poison version. But the way I'm building, I'm not building for poison, I'm building for traps. If someone wants to see a poison trap build, I can try and make one for you with this set, where I'm not using ambush, but I'm using other things. That's fine, I can try and make you one. Let me know if you want to see a poison version. Winds of Vicious Superior, Barbed Brambles. Barbed Brambles now is considered a trap, which is great, and it's an energy cost skill. This one is also energy cost, but spamming this one probably is the better option out of the two. So this one you would throw every now and then, but this one you might want to be spamming. Because all that damage over time, it just adds up, and by using energy you're also healing from one of the legend rank skills, which we will talk about later. Winds of Vicious Superior, as I mentioned, if you want you can downgrade it to the regular version. That gives you health regeneration. Less damage, but health regeneration, but it's not gonna create traps on the ground at regular intervals, and those traps do benefit from the extra trap damage you're stacking, so keep that in mind. For the passives, as I mentioned, ambush, this gives us physical damage based on counter-attack damage, but unlike the previous version of this build, I'm no longer stacking counter-attack damage in my gear as a blessing. I still try to get items that give me counter-attack damage, although this and this, unfortunately, unlucky rolls don't give me that. This one gives me some, but it's an old roll, so it's only 300 instead of 800. But this gives me 1400, this gives me 600 old item. Ideally you would want 1400 on that, or 500. 1400 here, 1400 here, and this also doesn't give me, so you can get more. With proper min-maxing of the items, you can probably get that to maybe even close to 40%. 30 something, 40% extra physical damage based on counter-attack damage without blessing a single item for counter-attack damage. So it's still a good skill, it's still worth using. I mean, 28% is nice. It might feel like a little too much using 15 points for that, but yeah, you're getting that damage all the time. You don't have to literally jump through hoops to get it, such as this one that gives you damage reduction and movement speed after dodging with a dodge roll. This one requires you to be moving, so regardless whether it's a dodge roll or just you walking around, you have 3 seconds after you stop moving before this disappears, and that's only 20%. So you can see how this one is the better one. This one, thankfully, is all the time that you do more damage with traps. But see, this one, this is the thing that does a lot of damage, the trap that we leave behind when we dodge. This trap is probably our biggest number, biggest damage dealing number. If right now this is doing 203, 291, 212 damage, this is 212 for the trap. If you look at that skill, this is 370, so that's the trap that does the most damage. The only thing that does more damage right now for us would be dashing daggers, but dashing daggers, there's one thing I would like to see change. I would like to see a third dagger spinning closer in a short radius, a little faster around us. So for the time this makes a whole circle, this would make maybe 2 circles around us, and that way if you have nearby enemies, they would get hit as well, because right now you have to just stay very close to certain enemies to get this damage going. So not that great. But okay, this one, as I mentioned, you get it from the invasions. Let me quickly show you where. So in the invasions you get it from here, which means you will want to get this one first, then probably get this one first, maybe get those two, and then move on to pushing over here. You might as well grab those other buffs, debuffs on the way. But eventually, once you feel you've got enough resistance to corruption, you could try and push through to get duelist chain reaction. As I mentioned, Hero of the Desert is skill that you only get if you have the Tomb King's DLC, which is a good DLC. It gives you an extra act, extra bosses, extra enemies and maps to run. And it gives you this skill, which is amazing because it's, I mean, 10% damage. This is like 1/3 of this damage. This is half of this damage. 1/5 of this damage. It gives you damage reduction 10%, which is the same damage reduction as this gives me. Or this. Where did it go? There was. Maybe I'm not using the one with damage reduction right now. There was a trap that gave damage reduction. Maybe they. Oh, it was the poison one. Well, you might reconsider switching this for the poison one to get more damage reduction. If you're having trouble surviving, you can swap this one for the poison. Just know that this poison does not benefit from the extra damage, but it's at least gonna give you the damage reduction. Alternatively, you can also switch this one for that one for damage reduction, only for 4 seconds, but hey, you do get it after casting it, so you can stack that damage reduction. But yeah, it's definitely a great passive because it gives you a little bit of everything, and it's worth the 7 points. For the legend ranks, I always say the same thing. The most important and good first investment for a new player would be legendary reinforcement, because it gives you damage and survivability, and the buff stays on you. The next best thing, if you need damage reduction, is would you think it would be crushing or endurance? I would say take the one that stays on you, which would be endurance. Punishment if you want damage, endurance if you want damage reduction as your next one, depending on what difficulty you're trying to push and whether you need more survivability or damage. The second priority would be endurance, in my opinion, because endurance is a buff that stays on you. Crushing is a debuff that gets applied on enemies. So if an enemy just appeared and you have endurance on you, you will get that damage reduction in effect. But if it's an enemy that just appeared and you're using crushing and you haven't hit the enemy to apply the debuff, obviously the damage reduction will not be in effect. Eventually, when you start pushing Chaos 8 or 9, this build, I would not recommend to go Chaos 10 with this build. It's not meant for Chaos 10. It's just weak souls. Right now the skills, a lot of the skills on Elessa are super weak still. So yeah, forget about Chaos 10. Imagine Chaos 10 doesn't exist when using this build. But if you're pushing Chaos 8 and 9, endurance, crushing and reinforcement, you want to stack those for the damage reduction, and after that focus on legendary punishment, and after that maybe get legendary healing, and after that legendary rage. If you think you don't need healing, put the points into rage. If you think you don't need as much damage reduction, maybe you can sacrifice crushing, put points into rage, but this is how I would do it. First start with reinforcement, second priority endurance, third priority crushing or punishment, fourth priority healing, and then the last priority again crushing or endurance. In fact, you can make the healing the last priority and get 1, 2, 3, 4, one of those would be 3, the other one 4, depending what you need. And that's pretty much it for those. Next, let's show you some gear info. And here comes the gear segment. I'll quickly show you the set and the items I've chosen, and then I'll talk in detail about the recommended stats, rolls, and why I'm selecting each item. So first we have the Eternity Protectress, also known as Eternity set. So we have the 5 pieces: helmet, chest, pants, boots, gauntlets. Then for the amulet, I'm using Ember Talisman to help with cooldowns, so we can spam some skills more often, and so we can just trigger Duel's chain reaction more reasonably. I'm using Symbiosis because it's the only bow that works well with trap builds. You've got Undergrowth Fangs, which could work with poison, doing explosions and healing and stuff like that, but 150% damage to traps seems like a better option to me. Master Archer Bow could also work well, but again, you're losing that damage and the build's already not doing that much of a damage with the traps, so And yeah, there's those 3 bows that I've considered. I haven't even talked about the other bow. I don't think I even have it somewhere here. Oh, this one, packed bow. Packed bow, we are not a summoner build, so packed bow is pointless for this setup. Now, Ring of the Spirits is a good choice. There are other choices to consider, but Ring of the Spirits is what I'm using, and Untamed Ring. Untamed Ring is nice. It's because we want some damage. As I mentioned, this build is not meant to be Chaos 10 build, so I'm not stacking damage reduction. If I were to try and do Chaos 10 with this build, I would probably sacrifice maybe those 2 rings and get something like a cheating links, and was it Iron Bark link. Those 2 could be my survivability links as bases, but again, we are not that type of a build, so I'm sticking to those 2 as my rings. Now here's the thing. As I mentioned, we're not going Chaos 10, so you can afford losing some survivability, but we want to get more damage. You still gotta pick up the blood orbs though. For the dagger, I'm gonna quickly say why I think there's 2 options. Option number 1, the more obvious one, is dashing daggers. Dashing daggers, permanently spinning daggers that can hit the dummies and stuff, that can hit the enemies, and they can do damage. They can do damage and they are fine. So they're a good choice. But another choice that requires a more skilled player, a more skilled user, would be Tireless Guardians, which can give you up to 400% damage buff. So look at the damage here. I'm not even gonna use. Actually, let's use this Blessed Dagger. Let's just quickly show you. So this one right now is 241 damage. 246,000 damage. If I were to switch to that one, and now I dodge through my spirit, and I've got 1 stuck. Can I dodge through the spirit again before it disappears? See, it's hard to get it to happen twice. But you can get 200% extra damage, and this is 741,000. But it requires you to dodge through it. This works well with the Summoner set, where you have 2 of those Spirit Guardians, but that's 200% extra damage. And 200% extra damage is a lot, and it's already better than Executors. So that's the second choice of a dagger. In the footage, I will try and show you me using either of the daggers in the video footage, so you can see the difference. Obviously the damage will be much better. With the other one, you just need to pay attention when you don't have to dodge, you just have to move through it, but you have to pay attention to where this one is, so you can get that damage there. But yeah, that's the 2 daggers I can recommend. And I think I talked about everything. Maybe let's talk about the amulet. I didn't mention why I'm using the amulet. The amulet I like using is Ember Talisman because of the cooldowns. It helps with resetting the cooldowns and gaining some energy. There are other choices which I wouldn't recommend, such as Spring Talisman, such as Cleansing Talisman, Talisman of Predator only if you're farming, but now that you have upgraded Relic Hunts, this is pointless. 500-600 extra wood quality is not gonna be a game changer for you. God Skills do more damage, not a bad choice. If you don't have a good rolled Ember Talisman, you can use a Wild Hunt Talisman, so your Winds of Isha can do more damage. Then Hero's Talisman, I would not suggest it. It makes you squishy, and it gives your teammates support. This one's not bad because it gives you damage reduction, 10%. So even if you're not hitting nearby enemies, you're still benefiting from a damage reduction. And here's something I haven't tested: whether this dodge roll trap we leave can benefit from nearby damage at the moment of impact. It will require some more extensive testing to figure out how exactly it does that, but let's say I'm doing 23,000 damage right now. If I were to equip this, How will that work? See, it's a little bit hard to get it to work, but I think it's not giving me that extra damage, because at the moment of dodging I'm already behind before the trap activates. The trap activates with a little bit of a delay, so you're not nearby the target. But if somehow you end up coming back before the trap activates, maybe it would work. So it's not gonna give you that bonus damage, so keep that in mind. Now, what you want in each piece of equipment is stats. Eternity Helmet, high priority cooldown, second priority would be HP, the rest is fewers. So pick whatever you want on the rest, such as resistance to damage over time, health regeneration, and so on. Eternity Tunic, get HP as much as you can, the rest is up to you. Here, get HP as much as you can, the rest is fewers. Here, get HP as much as you can, the rest is fewers. And maybe some movement speed will not be bad. So we can move around. This build would require a lot of mobility, although you're mostly moving around with dodge rolls, so you're not gonna see much use of movement speed, but it's good to have the movement speed nevertheless as a second priority. Gauntlets. A different type of armor, because this gives you DPS stats. Priority number 1, damage and HP. Flat HP, flat damage. Priority number 2 would be things like health drain, because you want to be healing as you're dealing damage. And things like crit damage are not bad. I wouldn't get damage over time, you don't really need it. The rest is fewers. It always will have armor, so you can't get away from the armor, so at best you would have good flat damage, good HP, good armor, and good crit damage, and good health drain. And that's 5 out of 6. The rest could be probably resistance to damage over time or health regeneration, whatever you decide to make it. For the amulet and the rings, the exact same rules apply. Priority number 1 would be crit chance and cooldown reduction and flat damage. Those 3 things are your main source of DPS and cooldown reduction and cooldown and spamminess. So once you have good crit chance and good cooldown reduction and flat damage, you're looking for HP as stat number 4, and ideally health drain as stat number 5. So those 5 things you want on the amulet. The amulet can get armor, rings cannot get armor, but it's not worth it, so keep that in mind. So amulet and rings, you want something that looks like, I can't show you exactly what it looks like, but crit chance, damage, cooldown reduction, HP, and health drain. Did I miss something? I'm gonna repeat again. Crit chance, cooldown reduction, damage, HP, health, drain. That's it. Something I didn't mention earlier about the daggers is why I don't use executors. Well, executors would require you to have some good health regeneration to get the most out of it. So if you're not gonna be using dashing daggers, then tireless guardians. Executors is not worth it. Deadly tips require summons, so again, not worth it. Unless we make a trapper summoner build with deadly tips, but that's gonna be a whole nother kind of build. But yeah, that's kind of pretty much it for the bases and what stats you would want. Oh, we didn't talk about the stats on the bow and the dagger. So on the bow, priority number 1 would be cooldown reduction and crit chance. Oh no, cooldown reduction and damage. This one doesn't get crit chance, this gets crit chance. On some heroes it's the left side that gets the crit chance. On other heroes it's the right side. This threw me off guard, so sorry. So yeah, here priority number 1 is cooldown reduction, then flat damage, then HP and crit damage. And that's 4. And then you want things like health drain, and maybe, just maybe, you might want some armor piercing. The final one is up to you, but I would grab armor piercing. On this one you do want cooldown reduction and crit chance. as your high priorities alongside flat damage and HP, and that's 4. Cooldown reduction, crit chance, damage, HP. Then you want things like health drain, and since this gives you half the crit damage that this can give, I put the crit damage as a lower priority than on that one. So I would first get the cooldown, the crit chance, the damage, the HP, and the health drain, and then as number 5 priority I would probably get my crit damage, and then I would probably look for things such as armor piercing. Damage over time we don't need for this build, so we're good. Avoid wood quality on every single item, by the way. It's a debate. It's a debate. It used to be a worth it stat, but now they gotta make this 5 times as much as it gives to make it worth stacking. And even then it's not gonna be needed when you're doing upgrade relic hunts. Energy could be good, and cost reduction could be good, but I'd rather stack other things. And that's it for the stats. Next we're gonna quickly show you about the blessings I suggest using. This is the blessing for the most HP. 80,000 HP, 3,640 damage. I think this build could use some more HP, so over 350,000 is what you're looking for with full green. With full red, if you can get it to 300,000, that's fine. So this is how you get the most HP and solid amount of damage. If you want a little bit more damage, 2000 less HP, but 420 AO more damage, that's fine. And now if you want another 420 damage more, but for the price of another 2000 HP, you do this. So the options are red, green, red, red, green, red, or red, green, red, green, red, green, or green, red, green, green, red, green. So either 4 green or 4 red or 3 and 3. And you need to be fully linked, so you need those link fragments. And you need God tokens, which as you can see, the God token kind of changes things. The God token kind of makes the minimum to be 90% of the maximum that you can get. And without the God token, you can see the minimum is around, I think, 60% of the maximum. That's actually exactly 60% of the maximum. So yeah, you want that God token, you want the 4 links, and you have to play around. Find your balance, find how much HP you want and how much damage you want, based on how much HP you get from your items. And that's pretty much all for the gear. Next you're gonna see some more gameplay footage and me talking about rotations and stuff. So here's the gameplay segment. I'm going to first talk about the Tireless Guardians and then talk about Dashing Daggers next. With Tireless Guardians, when using it, you would be positioning yourself into the wisp, the glowing spirit, so you can get the buff every few seconds. Apart from that, with either of the daggers equipped, you would be taking advantage of the heroic skill, Ambush Specialist, that leaves a trap, and that's the most damagey trap you can get in the game. And keep in mind, this is a little bit tricky because you have to dodge, and it leaves the trap at point A from the dodge where the dodge originated. So you might find yourself dodging from point A to B to A to B, where on A or on B would be the enemy. Then there's 2 more traps, and another one that didn't used to be trap, but it's already a trap. That's Barbed Brambles. So Barbed Brambles counts as a trap. Living Roots and Hungry Roots also count as a trap, and so is the skill from Ambush Specialist, the trap left from the Ambush Specialist passive skill. There's also Winds of Isha that also can leave some traps, at least the superior version, which you can use. And apart from that, you have a fewer skill. I decided to use Spinning Blades as a fewer skill. And the basic skill is up to you, whatever basic skill you want. Now, here's footage of the Dashing Daggers. With the Dashing Daggers, the only thing I wish they would change is to add another third dagger that is spinning closer to us like half of the radius of the other two and maybe spinning a little bit slower, and that would make the dagger amazing. Right now melee range enemies don't get hit, and that's a big miss when the game is forcing you into leaving a trap right next to the enemy when you're dodging with the set. But in general, that's kind of it for the build. To get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games like this one, which would be wooters of all varieties, isometric, third-person ARPGs, wooter shooters and all sorts of wooters like that, you could subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on my content updates. And optionally, you can even join as a member of the Struck Club on YouTube as a channel member to get access to exclusive perks such as special emotes custom made by me, special badges custom made by me that represents how many months you have been a member for, as well as opt-in of editing tutorials that I can give for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, as well as shoutouts and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and keeping me going. Thank you also for watching this video, everyone. Keep it cool, Struck Club. Until next time, and goodbye.